of Brett Lee. Any changes anyone wishes to make to the agenda? Seeing none, we'll deem the agenda approved. And public comment. We have anyone that wishes to make public comment? Seeing none, we'll move on to the agency business. First item of which involves a possible closed session. And Richard, do you want to explain that item?
Sure. The closed session relates to items 4 and 5 on your agenda concerning the proposed Lillard eminent domain action. It's on there really as a placeholder in the event directors would like to talk with me about confidential questions relating to the proposed eminent domain and the property, the status of things. I have nothing confidential I intend to talk with you in closed session about. I have a brief open session report that I'll deliver, but it's really just for the directors if you have anything you'd like to discuss in closed session with me.
Well, let's ask the question, see if there's any director that wishes to move this item into closed session ahead of the discussion on the agenda items. I do not see any, so we will then move forward with the agenda and take those items as they come. We have a consent agenda in front of us. Does anyone wish to remove items from the consent agenda? Seeing none, we'll entertain a motion.
Move to accept the consent agenda.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to accept the consent agenda. I see no further discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. And Dennis, take it away with our update.
Chairman Marble and board members, a fairly brief report for you this afternoon. We're very much in full construction mode right now, so just a couple of updates on related items and some photos of what the progress out on the job site. You have in your packet a full briefing on our financing that goes into more detail, but I'll summarize it here. In terms of the SRF loans for Woodland, $111 million for the regional facilities. We've submitted $33 million in claims, and we've actually received $28 million, or 25% of the loan total. Things are going very smoothly, and we're at the point in the process where we submit reimbursement requests monthly, and they're turned around fairly quickly. For Davis, again, a $95.5 million loan for the regional facilities. We did receive a $10.1 million. That was for the planning and preliminary engineering costs that were incurred from 2009 until June of 2014. And as you know, and as we've reported in the past, release of construction funds is awaiting the procurement of the last easement for the project. In terms of grants, we're again seeking $40.2 million total, equally split between the federal and state government. We're in very good shape on the federal side, $17.4 million appropriated to date. A request for $2.7 million is in process. In our recent visit to Washington, D.C., we learned and were told that that money is available in the current year budget, the FY15 budget. So we expect to have that final $2.7 million appropriated in the near term. On state side, $12 million to date. We have $8 million, 8.1 that we're seeking to complete the state share. Our best opportunity is the Prop 1 funds, and we're working with our consultant, California Strategies, on money that's been designated for the Department of Fish and Wildlife, Wildlife Conservation Board, and the Sacramento-San Joaquin Delta Conservancy. Just recently, the Department of Fish and Wildlife put out some guidelines as to how they would prioritize the release of the funds that they've been designated, and looks like we'll be able to check all of those boxes pretty easily for our remaining funds.
Why don't we interrupt that? We have one question.
If you don't mind. I was curious about that in the process, and that we're on top. It sounds like they're creating the plans as they go, and we're filling the boxes as we go.
Yeah, what they've in our meetings with the Department of Fish and Wildlife Director Chuck Bonham and others in the administration, they've put an emphasis on transparency and on ability to fully compete. The Department of Fish and Wildlife has issued draft guidelines in terms of how they would rank the proposals that they would receive. We're in the process of developing comments on those guidelines, but what we see so far is, we like what we see. We're in close contact with Senator Wolk's office and with Assemblymember Dodd, and making sure that we're coordinated. And as the process goes forward, they're going to hold 3 workshops. And the first one of those is going to take place likely in mid-April. It'll be in Sacramento, and then they're going to do a couple of others in other parts of the state. So as soon as we learn more, we're going to want to likely comment on the draft guidelines. We're going to want to, again, like we've done in the past, get letters of support from the region, and depending on the timing and location and importance of this public hearing, we'd like to get some elected officials, some of the board members, to perhaps attend and speak in favor of our position on the guidelines.
Are you fairly confident that we'd get a full 8.1 out of it, or?
Well, it's really tough to say at this point, whether we get the full 8.1 million, right away. Our goal, and what we're trying to do, is get the full 8.1 and get it as soon as possible. I think big picture, it looks very favorable for us to get that money. The one concern we have is the timing and how long it'll take to go through the process. So we're working hard to make sure we're at the top of the list and that we can get the funds released as soon as possible.
Okay, thank you.
Just some recent activities on environmental. We did complete our environmental review for County Road 22 realignment. Recall that there's a section of the roadway on the eastern end of County Road 22 as you approach the joint intake site, where the structural section has failed badly. Originally, we were going to put the raw water pipeline in that roadway, in that failed structural section. We decided to kind of bypass it and go to the south about 800 feet on the property owned by Ramos, and so that the environmental work concluded that there was not an environmental issue or problem there, and we've also completed the easement agreement with Mr. Ramos, or the Ramos group. We are busily preparing the draft supplementary EIR for the ASR program, and that is going to be released for public comment in mid-April. Permitting, as I mentioned last meeting, we did obtain our Yolo County encroachment permit. Most recently, we got our Caltrans permits to cross under I-5 at 2 locations. We've received our final PG&E contract for power at the regional treatment plant, and that's under review, and should hopefully have that executed here in the next week or 2. Energy efficiency, we've got final notification from PG&E's program for energy efficiency rebates, and we've been notified that we will receive $82,605 in rebates, and that money will come at the end of the project when they actually go out and verify that we've put in the equipment that we've included in our application. I mentioned that we did get the County 22 realignment easement obtained, and of course we have the Lillard easement outstanding. In terms of the joint project intake, construction is continuing. They've got all of the structural piles installed. They poured the Tremy slab, which is a sealer slab, at the bottom of the excavation. They are working on the structural foundation right now, and they also completed the installation of our pipelines under the railway. This is a picture of the intake and the slab work that's going on. On the southern slab, you can see they poured the rebar, or they've installed the rebar rather, and they're ready for concrete. And they're working on a similar installation on the southern or northern, rather the northern end. In terms of our project with CH2M Hill, 100% design is complete. We're 72% through the submittal review process, the review and approval of all of the equipment for the project. Through the end of February, 28.1% complete, and total payments of $40.6 million. One of the things that's really picking up in the last couple of weeks and will continue through the summer months is the installation of the off-site pipelines. The raw water pipeline, if you go along the alignment, they're in the process of clearing the right-of-way right now. They are on the Woodland, they're starting work on the Woodland finished water transmission pipelines. There's bore pits being excavated for the crossing under I-5, and they're also starting to clear the right-of-way and deliver pipeline materials. You'll see pipeline materials staged along the alignment here in the coming weeks. Caltrans permits have been obtained. One thing of note is the permit does allow for a 2-week closure of the northbound I-5 off-ramp. That's at the eastern end, kind of near where the joint intake project is. So we're going to be watching that closely. Had some conversations with neighbors and people that use that route. Needless to say, they're not real happy about it, but CH did get the permit from Caltrans that allows that. So we'll keep you posted as that closure gets closer.
Do you know that if they're likely to use that full 2 weeks, or what is their
Originally, it
timeframe?
was 3 weeks, and through the negotiation process, it's been limited to 2. Let me ask Lindsay, do you think 2 weeks is realistic? 2 weeks is probably a good estimate at this point. The other major closure is County Road 22, and that's going to be closed for 2 months, May 15th to July 15th. And that closure is allowed by way of our Yolo County encroachment permit. So a lot of coordination right now on those closures and on the installation of the pipelines with the Farm Bureau and with our neighbors CPG, Pacific Coast Producers, Yolo County business and neighbors. So that coordination will continue, and as I think the board members know, we've been sending out a weekly update on the off-site pipeline activities, where they're going to be working and who we've been talking to and whether we're encountering any problems. So we'll continue to send those notices out. Some pictures of the work going on at the site. Clearwell number 1 is complete. It's been leak tested and it's passed. They're just finishing up the wire wrap on Clearwell number 2, and they'll be taking the scaffolding out of the interior and leak testing that tank as well. A lot of forming going on at the site, a lot of concrete trucks, rebar being tied, forms being installed and stripped. This is the ozone facility. This gives you more of a panoramic view of some of the activity on the site. Work going on the sand-blasted clarifier, the backwash equalization basin, and again, the ozone facility. This is some wall pours that are visible after the forms were stripped. One of the exciting things that's coming up is our operations building. They've actually started work preparing for the floor slab. You can see the trench that was dug for the cutoff wall there, and that'll start to be a focus of construction activity here in the coming weeks. So upcoming activities and milestones, obviously continue our efforts to get a timely turnaround on our SRF grant reimbursements, continue the coordination with the Farm Bureau and the Central Valley Flood Protection Board regarding the Road 22 closure, and then coordinating with PG&E regarding the installation of power. The plan is to have permanent power installed at the treatment plant by this September. As I mentioned earlier, the draft ASR supplemental EIR will be issued for public comment in April. And this will allow Woodland in particular to proceed with the development, planning, design, installation of their ASR wells. Permitting, continue the coordination with the state board. This is kind of the major permit that we have to obtain, so there's ongoing coordination with the state board to make sure they're following the progress of the treatment plant and they're aware of the facilities that are being put in, and at the end of the day, they will have to issue a permit to allow us to operate the plant and produce and deliver potable water. Property rights, as I mentioned earlier, the Lillard property is our remaining outstanding property to be obtained. This is our schedule. It hasn't changed from our last update. We're still planning to complete the acceptance test in June of 2016, and that would be the date that we start delivering potable water to the two cities. And our project cost, this is the same that you've seen before, $270.7 million for the entire project with a regional cost of $204.5 million. As you mentioned now that we will be updating the project cost as part of our annual budget process when we come forward in the June timeframe. We're starting that process now. We don't anticipate, major changes to the schedule or the cost. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions the board may have.
Go ahead.
Dennis, I was just curious if you had an update, and maybe this is more for Diane, on the City of Davis, the other application before the SRF, or the other SRF application that the City of Davis has for the $35 million.
I'll let Diane answer.
Yes, I have turned in the entire environmental package and it's been accepted. We're down to just the financial package. In the financial package, the only thing that's still due is that our finance department and our bond counsel wanted to review the final cash flow before it went in. And we have a meeting next Tuesday at 1 p.m. to do that. And then we can turn that document into the SRF people. Right now, they anticipate that they should be able to turn that around quite quickly because they've had the preliminary information also on the financial package. So we're 99% done with it. Anticipate maybe the last council in April, April 21st is probably when the agreement likely would come to the Davis City Council
great.
for that.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thanks. Yeah.
Any other questions? All right. Thank you, Dennis. We now have a public hearing on resolution necessity. Do you want to preface that
Yes,
here?
Dr. Marble, I'll cover this item. Again, items 4 and 5 relate to a staff proposal to commence eminent domain proceedings against property owned by the Lillard Family Limited Partnership. To remind the directors, this is the portion of the Davis treated water pipeline at the south end of the regional project system, just before the point of connection to the City of Davis system. Agency staff have been in discussions and negotiations with the property owner and its representatives for several months, quite some time. This is the property that's complicated with ash that has been placed along the portion of the ranch property, including a portion that our pipeline will cross. The agency staff, Dennis and I, met in late January with property owners and a representative from the district attorney's office and various attorneys about a plan to move forward. Coming out of that meeting, there was general consensus that this ash does not present a toxic waste problem, really, rather it's more of a solid waste disposal matter, and the property owner came out of that and agreed to retain a soil scientist from UC Davis, which they have done, to help them develop a soil management plan for the proper agronomic placement of this ash across the balance of the ranch property, and to otherwise dispose and manage of the ash and till it into the ground. That report's been prepared in draft form. We haven't seen it yet. We're told it's coming, and as these ongoing discussions and efforts go on, the calendar continues to click forward, and we're under construction and will need access to this property. Therefore, staff have decided that now is the time that we need to start the contingency plan B of, well, if we can't bring the property owner to the table agreeably, we need to start down this plan B, which is eminent domain. We have notified the property owner and its attorneys of this proposal and of this public hearing. This is the time and place for a public hearing on the proposed resolution of necessity that's in your agenda packet. Like as I said, the property owner's been notified. Looking out in the audience, I don't see Mr. Lillard or any of his attorneys here, but nevertheless, the board should open the public hearing, see if there are any comments from members of the public, consider those comments, close the public hearing, and then proceed on to item number 5 to consider adoption of the proposed resolution. Before you open the public hearing, are there any questions?
See no questions, we'll open the public hearing in consideration of this resolution of necessity. Any members of the public wishing to comment, please make yourselves known. Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing, move forward with the item, and I believe now we're on to item 6, where we can...
Item 5.
Item 5, where we can, yes, my apologies, where we can consider this now as a resolution.
Correct.
I'll move the item.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. All right, Dennis, we have the long-range board calendar.
Yeah, just points. We don't have anything requiring board attention that is urgent, scheduled for April, so it's quite likely that that meeting will not be needed. Similarly, in May, the primary purpose of that meeting would be to review a draft budget. However, as I mentioned in my presentation, we don't anticipate significant changes.
Dennis, can you turn your mic on?
As I mentioned in the presentation, we don't anticipate significant changes in the total project cost. Most, if not all, of the consultant contracts go through the end of construction, and they're all in very good shape. So I don't think we really need, unless the board would like, to have a separate meeting to review a draft budget that's not going to change much. And I would suggest that if the board's comfortable, we can do it in one shot in June, approve the budget and any related matters that we need to deal with at that point. If the board's amenable to that, and in barring any unforeseen item coming up requiring attention, we'd likely cancel the May meeting as well.
I'm comfortable with
I
that.
don't see any negatives being expressed here, Dennis. So we'll move forward with the meeting then in June, and we'll all stay tuned in case we're called in for something urgent.
Right.
And you were gonna try to figure out a date, or maybe Lenan, for the June meeting that could at
Yes.
best accommodate everybody. So why don't you move forward, Lenan, with some kind of doodle poll or something to get us squared away with when we can do that. All right, any other questions or comments about the calendar? Correspondence or technical advisory committee comments? Anything from Greg, you, or Diane?
Yeah, our east trunk line is 75% complete. Our west trunk line will be in construction in a start in May. And let's see, our 2 ASR wells are currently in design. They'll probably start drilling those in the fall. The tank is operational, and we're glad to have it. Other than that, we're moving right along. Thank you.
Great. All right, board member comments. Don, anything from your end?
Thank you.
Anything from yours? Sid?
I just want to report that yesterday the Committee on Finance of the Regents approved the indemnification language. David attended the meeting. If you watched television, you know we weren't the most exciting thing on the agenda yesterday, and it went through without comment. Isn't that correct, David? So that was the last significant step we needed in order to get all of we have 4 different documents we need to sign. So that committee report went to the full Board of Regents this morning, and then that was approved. The committee report was approved. So we're in the stage over the next few days of we need to get all of the documents signed by all the parties. One of the things the Regents also did in the last 2 days is change the delegations of authority. And so we have to revise some signature blocks and things, and I'll work with Dick on getting that into place so that we can get that all taken care of. So hopefully the next 3 or 4 working days, we'll have all of the documents signed, at least on our end, and we'll get them off to the agency and those documents that go to the city as well. So we have submitted our general application package for our SRF loan. We've submitted our environmental. We've submitted our financial. I understand the technical will be going in very shortly. So we'll be moving forward on our part of the SRF loan. And again, thanks to the agency and the 2 cities for plowing that furrow and making it a little bit easier for us to move forward. So I think that's all I have for right now.
I might just add, the board approved the UCD agreement at your January meeting. So now that UC has approved the action, we want to maybe gather at the end of the meeting real quick to take a celebratory photo, and we can use it on our website and other places. And Kim's here to organize us for that photo opportunity.
Good. Hope we don't keep her waiting too long here. I've got just a couple comments I want to make. First of all, I want the board to be aware, as I mentioned last time, concerning the Groundwater Sustainability Agency in Yolo County and that process proceeding forward. At the last WRA board meeting, which was a week ago, the board approved the RFQs to go out in regards to hiring a facilitator to work with WRA, Farm Bureau, Flood Control District, and other interested parties in promoting a public process for determining the GSA or multiple GSAs or whatever will emerge as the best way of our resolving that legislation within our county. So those RFQs have gone out, and there has been a great deal of interest. A lot of people interested in that position. So we'll keep you posted on that. Also, we had a meeting last week. Jim and I have both been attending the water resources team meetings for the Cap to Cap trip. And those water team meetings have been progressing very well. The Cap to Cap group does have its listed priorities now to go back to Washington, D.C., and anyone that will be part of that delegation will have those to look at. So I'm not going to brief you on those. I've been asked to be the team lead to the meeting of the delegation with Congressman Garamendi and with the House Committee on Environmental and Energy. So should be an interesting trip. And then by law, maybe Dennis, you don't have to, but elected officials have to report when they've been on a lobbying trip and describe it. So at last month, Dennis and I represented the agency in Washington, D.C. with NACWA and with Meridian Farms and with Natomas Mutual Water District in pursuing additional federal funding for fish screens. And this really had 2 aspects. There were 14 total meetings in Washington, D.C. over that 2-day period of time. This had two principal concerns for the agency. One is it relates to the fact that we've been supported by NACWA and by Meridian and by Natomas in prioritizing the Woodland Davis Clean Water Agency RD 2035 joint intake project for federal funding, and that has helped our ability to get those funds immensely, and so we have felt a desire to ensure that they get their federal funding as well. And in addition to that, this agency still has some federal funding that hasn't yet come, and we need to make sure that funding arrives. And so that was part of our discussion back there as well. So I think that basically summarizes that. And then tomorrow I'll be participating in assisting with a tour of the intake for a couple of those congressional offices that are coming out to look at it. So that concludes my report, and there being no objections, meeting's adjourned, and picture taking can begin.
Lynn Ann?